Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Love Encompassed podcast. I am Phil.
And I'm your host, Victoria.
And, of course, you're...
Yep. Every week, it doesn't change.
Every week, you're the same.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about today is consistency.
Consistency.
Staying consistent.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about in this week's episode. And you may think it's like staying consistent. What does that have to do with really anything? I'm not only talking about in relationships. I'm just talking about in life in general. Consistency is the key to the breakthrough.
It is. And sometimes easier said than done.
Yes. Consistency's tough. Even we were talking about it before we started recording was even doing these podcasts every single week is staying consistent with it. There's a lot of times we're like, we don't want to do it this week.
Yeah, not because it's like, we don't enjoy doing them, because we do enjoy doing them, but it's just because, like, I'm probably sure you guys have heard us say it a couple times, and you may even be tired of hearing us say it a couple times. It's just like, I've been traveling a lot with the boys because, it's AAU season, and all my parents that know what AAU season is, it is not for the weak.
Rough.
And so dealing with that, and then just, the other projects that we've been working on, that's been time consuming, and, so it's just been a lot. So there are days it's not so much like we don't want to film. It's just like, my goodness, can we just have one day off?
Yeah. But that's the key, consistency in doing it, and eventually the breakthrough will happen in your life. And so whatever it is that maybe you are thinking about today, it's like, what is that thing that you know that you're supposed to be doing consistently in your relationship? Date nights, we talk about them all the time. Are you consistently doing them? Are you consistently pouring into each other? Are you consistently listening to each other, communicating? What are you doing consistently? It will eventually pay off in your life.
Yes. And, we've heard that so many times, but I feel like a good conversation starter would also be like, how do you stay consistent when you feel like you have been consistent in the good things? Because you can be consistent in bad habits, and you get the breakthrough of that. And then you have the consistency and the good habits of what the goals and things that you're trying to get, and being consistent in that. And so it's like, what about the moments or the times in your life when you feel like you have been consistent day in, day out, to the best of your ability for years, you know what I mean? And you are still waiting for that thing to break through. How do you keep putting one foot in front of the other? How do you keep maintaining that hope that it is going to change and work out,
Yeah, that's the tough part. Because it is doing the same thing over and over. And it's like, okay, I think of like waves on a rock. And those waves hit a rock over and over and over, and eventually it turns to sand, right? But it's not going to happen in just a day or a week. It's over a consistent period of time. So trying to stay consistent when you're fighting with your own thoughts of like, hey, is this not working?
Or when you see someone else that doesn't seem like or look like they have been doing it as long as you have, or been waiting as long as you have.
Yes.
And, it's the thing that you kind of been working toward, and then as the other person starts doing it, it's like, man, it just gotta happen.
Fell in my lap.
And you're just like, oh.
Or
I'm
they do
so
the,
happy for
I
you.
wasn't even trying. We weren't even doing anything. And it just happened. And you're like, that is so great
and
for
you're
you.
trying to do what the Bible says, to rejoice with them that rejoice. And so you're like, okay. And you hear, let's just keep it real. You hear, I can't say you. For me, I've heard, oh, it's no different if you're in the line at a fast food place, or if you're in the line at a store, when that person before you gets theirs, you're just next in line. You just wait for your turn or whatever. And that is encouraging in theory.
Yeah, theory.
But sometimes I can be happy for that person. I'm not saying not happy for that person. But if I'm real, I still have moments while I'm being happy for that person where I'm just like, God, can you help me? Because I'm kind of like, I'm happy for that person. But at the same time, I'm like, make it make sense for me, dude.
Well, I've been in the line at Chick-fil-A, and we've been together. And I will be like, what are they ordering? Because there's like 2 lines that are going, and the other line, everybody's been there. The other line is just like moving, and you think, I went to the wrong line.
Yeah.
I got the trainee. But you're like, what are these people ordering?
Yeah.
Like, move along already.
Yeah.
Order your sandwich. It's
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A. They only have chicken. What are you thinking about? But it's so, even if it is, hey, the next person in line is about, you're the next person in line, that doesn't mean while I'm in the line that I'm not getting frustrated, but staying consistent and knowing what you're doing is going to pay off. It's like working out in a gym. It will pay off if you keep doing it.
But, and you saying that, it kind of like jogged something for me when you were like, hey, when I'm standing in line or when I'm sitting in the car and I'm like, okay, dude, hurry up and order. Usually you are that way when you become impatient. If you aren't,
that's good.
If you aren't in a hurry to get your order, if you aren't in a hurry because you're in between your lunch hour, if you aren't in a hurry because you're just not in a mood that day, what seems like a long time really isn't a long time. You're just impatient and you're ready to get what you want now.
Yeah, that's good. You're calling me impatient.
No, I wasn't calling you impatient when you said that. That's what hit me. So maybe that's what, we can remember is that when we are in the meantime of waiting while we're doing the things that we believe is right, are we becoming frustrated because we are impatient with the timing of what we're waiting for?
That's a good point. And it's what can we learn about ourselves, why you're consistently doing it, right, over and over. Let's say you're working in your marriage, okay, and you're consistently doing that thing. You're working on our communication, and it seems like it's same place as it always is. It's not moving. It's not doing anything. But the reality of it is you're actually getting better. What can you learn about yourself? Are you becoming impatient while you're waiting?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, this isn't working. Like, I've known people that it's like, if they change something, but it doesn't like yield massive results in the first 30 seconds, they're like, didn't work.
Yeah.
I remember working out long time ago. Don't do that anymore. Kidding. I'm kidding. But I remember my trainer, when I first started working out, I would stand on the scale every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing is moving. And he said, here's what I want you to do. Don't get on the scale for like 21 days.
Yeah. I can see that.
Just do the same thing consistently over and over and over, and then look at your progress. And so if you're constantly focused on it, the scale's not changing, that's what you put your focus on. The focus is on staying consistent, doing 10,000 steps a day, working out for 30, 45 minutes every day, just staying consistent with that, eating right, eating consistently the right thing every day. You consistently keep doing that. Now all of a sudden it's like, wow, I had abs.
Yeah, because when I work out, I'll work out and then like, especially if I haven't done it in a while, and I'll like do my workout for the day, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, any change yet? Do I see anything yet? Do I look good yet?
One workout.
One workout. Like, is that good? But I mean, and hearing you speak is not even just like being consistent. It's like we said, you could be consistent in negative things and get negative results. You can be consistent in positive things and get positive results. But it's like being consistent in doing the right things toward the goal that you're trying to, achieve. So it's like, okay, if I feel like I've been consistent toward this thing that I'm, striving for, or that I'm waiting for, to come to pass, is there a moment or a time while you're being consistent that you look at what you're doing and say, okay, am I doing the right things to yield the results? Is there something that I can look at and assess and say, okay, is there a tweak I need to make here? Is there an adjustment I need to make here?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think we're just using the working out as an example. Maybe that's for you and I. But think about it. If you're working out every day and you're doing 10,000 steps, yet you're not changing the way you eat, then you're like, well, I'm doing all this stuff. Yeah, but if you don't tweak this area, then it's not gonna work. So we've talked about in marriage and in relationships, it's like, hey, you're talking, you're communicating, you're doing all this stuff. But if you're not changing the way you communicate, if you're not changing the way you listen, if you're still just saying, well, we're communicating, but it's not working. Yeah, you're communicating in still a harsh tone. Maybe change the tone and see if the communication doesn't get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you always have to, it's always tweaking in every area. When you're staying consistent in anything, you're still tweaking to be like, well, I've been doing this, but maybe I need to change this.
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to change that.
Yeah.
And you have to have honest conversations. So if you're talking in marriage, you have to have honest conversations with your spouse that says, hey, we are being consistent in this area. We're doing this right. But this area is still a little off.
Yeah.
And we need to tweak that.
Yeah. And that's a conversation you have with yourself, looking and seeing, okay, am I really being consistent, or am I being consistent 4 days out of the 7 in the week? Because consistency is doing the same thing over and over every single day, every time. So sometimes we can have a false perception of us really thinking that we're consistent with something.
So you could be 75% consistent.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And so
I felt like that was personal towards me and my
Absolutely not. No. Because I can't come for you and you're working out, because I have not. I ain't even 75. I'm like 25 right now. So I'm definitely not coming for you and like working out and anything like that. It's just something that I'm thinking about. Like, I think sometimes in our frustration, we think that we're really doing everything that we need to be doing. And if we're really honest with ourselves and really assess it, is like, are we really doing everything that we can be doing? Are we really consistent in that thing? I heard someone say, I don't know who it is, but I heard someone say, don't fall in love with the results, fall in love with the process.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? And I think sometimes, I'll speak for myself, and my desire and zeal to want the result. I think, because I'm the type of person, like, especially because, growing up with not a lot and experiencing those different type of things, I know how to, I'm going to try and say the word that I struggle with, compartmentalize. Yay for me.
Good job.
But it's easy for me to compartmentalize and be like, okay, I don't want to do this thing, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get that thing. So let me just do what I got to do to get it. And I think what happens is when you do it for so long, speaking for myself, that's when the frustration starts kicking in, because you're not enjoying the thing that you're doing to get the result. You just want the result.
Yeah. It's kind of, when you were saying that, I started thinking, because we've had different people that have come up to us during the podcast or whatever and said, oh man, I love it. And guys will be like, date nights. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think guys try to fall in love with the result.
Are you convicted? You keep bringing up date nights.
No. Not at all. Kind of. But guys fall in love with the result of date night.
Okay. It's only if the date night goes well.
Right. And when you're saying that, it's like, hey, fall in love with the process of something rather than the result of it. It's like, man, if I take the time and I'm preparing and I'm making sure the date night is great and I'm falling in love with that, I'll get the result that I want.
Yeah.
Instead of just focus solely on the result, fall in love with the process of it.
Yeah, and it's not even like, oh, okay, I'll get the result that I want. It's like, because since you're on date nights, if you are doing a thing for somebody else just because you want something from them, that is not consideration. That is manipulation.
Ooh. You better go ahead on this podcast.
Okay, I'm just saying.
You saying compartmentalize.
I'm using big words. I'm dropping one-liners. But I'm just saying, that's manipulation. That is not.
That's so good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so if you're doing stuff in your relationship, in your marriage, just because you're trying to get something out of it.
That is not consideration. That is manipulation.
That is
and
good.
That is not just for your spouse. That is relationships in general.
Yeah, that's so good. If you're just doing stuff for your kids just to get stuff out of them, that's manipulation.
That's manipulation.
And you dropping bombs today.
I was ready.
You came ready for consistency.
But as far as, following along with the process, if we think about like for our people, that like to cook, you know what I'm saying? Like when we put, because you always hear the saying, a watch pot never boils, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so if I'm cooking, right, if we're talking about consistency and falling in love with the process, and I'm not so much focused on the result because I know the result will happen if I just flow through the process and enjoy my journey while I'm getting there. And so if I'm cooking and I know my water is boiling, so I know that's doing the right thing. And while I'm focusing on the other things that I'm supposed to be doing as well, it will all eventually come together at the right time. So it's the same thing as far as working through our consistency of our relationships, our attitude, our mindset, our approach of life, and what we're doing. It's like, is it normal to have being frustrated? Absolutely. Can we get upset? Absolutely. But remind ourselves in the moment of this is a temporary state and situation, and I can't get stuck here. I have to operate from the mindset of this. I have to operate from the mindset of I am working where I want to be, not where I am.
That's so good. Because even in your example got me thinking about the pot, which you're just dropping one-liners today, metaphors all over the place. But it got me thinking, when you turn that pot on and you go do the other stuff, you're not worried that that's not going to work.
Oh, that's good.
You just know it's going to take the time to do it.
Exactly.
And if we're not careful in our lives, we can believe and have faith for something, but then we keep going back and checking it. And we keep going, is this really going to happen? Maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe the pot's not going to come on. Maybe the pot's going to turn off. We start worrying and we freak out about it rather than saying, no, it's on. It's good. I'm going to go do what I know to do, and then I'll come back when it's ready.
But also leading back into what we said, we still have to go back and check, because if we ignore it for too long, eventually that water is going to dissipate or evaporate, and now my pot's burning.
Now you're bringing in science.
But
you hit us with English. You're at metaphors. You're just nailing, and now science.
But it's okay. Yeah, boom. I'm making sure. My water's boiling. Okay, I'm working on my other things. But every now and then, I'm gonna go and check to make sure that thing is still doing the thing that I'm working on, to make sure it's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So,
well, you nailed consistency today.
I think. Listen, I think it was more
this
for
one
me.
Hit home.
Not the manipulation part. I just have recognized just from what you said. I just have come across people that have operated in that way.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, well, let me point that out real quick, because I don't like that. But I know for me, I used to have, and I'm speaking this in faith, because you used to say it to me, you like to go from A to Z without the letters in between.
Yes.
And it's just because I want what I want when I want it now. And I'm just going to be real. But if I'm honest with that, that's not maturity.
No, it's not.
So that's something that I'm growing through. And
that's what kids do.
Okay, I said that's something I'm working through and growing through. I've recognized it. I'm self-aware. Thanks.
I was staying with consistent.
But yeah, so this was encouraging for me, just as much. Hopefully it was for you guys, for sure.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode on consistency. Love it. Keep watching. Stay consistent watching us.
Absolutely. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we want to say thank you so much. Go ahead and hit the like button as well as the subscription button to continue to follow. Share it with a friend if you feel like someone will benefit from this as well. If you're listening to our podcast on Apple or Spotify, we want to say thank you. And we appreciate your support and continuing to follow. Make sure as well, share with a friend that you feel like could benefit from this podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Love Encompassed Podcast, as well as Phil Clemens and Victoria Clemens. I was going to say something completely different. But either way, we are grateful for you. We thank you for taking the time to listen. And make sure this week you remember to stay positive in your consistency.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.